There's more to see tonight on AFN. Join us for primetime viewing starting at 7:05 with Full House. The Simpsons comes your way at 7:35. At 8 o'clock, see Profile. Part 2 of A Dangerous Life comes your way at 8:10. At 10 o'clock, catch In Living Color. The AFN Late Edition starts at 10:25. At 11:05, it's the Arsenio Hall Show. That's primetime viewing tonight on AFN.
Saluting Staff Sergeant Jerry Pecorillo, AFEBS NCO of the Year.
Serving Americans in Europe for 50 years, this is AFN.
That haunt Los Angeles. Now, 9 months after the first trial in the Rodney King case, round 2, and new fear.
The juries are going to go, jury members are going to go in there knowing that if they find these officers guilty, we're likely to have another riot.
And on the eve of jury selection in the civil rights case against 4 police officers, something else may be on trial.
They're using this federal case as a litmus test for the jury system, for the judicial system.
Tonight, we'll talk with Darrell Gates and Maxine Waters about the second Rodney King trial.
This is ABC News Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
It's been almost 2 years since a number of Los Angeles police officers tried to subdue and arrest a motorist by the name of Rodney King. The videotape of that arrest, and most especially of the beating of Rodney King, has been shown so many times on television stations and networks around this country that it would be hard to find anyone who has not seen it at least once. Indeed, had the videotape alone been the only evidence introduced at the trial of the 4 officers who were ultimately charged in the case, a verdict of guilty would have seemed inevitable. But a jury, which also listened to the testimony, the cross-examination, and most especially the instructions of the judge, ended up dismissing most of the charges. That, in turn, led to 3 days of rioting and arson, which cost 53 lives and about $1 billion. The 4 police officers are about to be tried again, this time on federal charges of violating Rodney King's civil rights. Jury selection begins tomorrow. As Judy Muller reports, one is inclined to feel a certain sympathy for the jurors.
The federal court notified 6,000 L.A. residents that they had been picked as prospective jurors for the second King trial. Only 380 said they would be available. That reluctance is understandable. Following the acquittals in the first trial, L.A. exploded in the worst riots in this century, and potential jurors for this second trial are all too aware of that fact.
Certainly it's going to be difficult to find any jurors who can be impartial. Everyone has seen the videotape repeatedly. Everyone knows that the first jury acquitted. Everyone's afraid that an acquittal here could lead to another set of riots.
As jury selection gets underway, defense attorneys agree that the most important question must address that fear.
Are you afraid? Are you afraid? Are you afraid? That's the number one question. Are you afraid to sit on this jury? Are you afraid to render a verdict of acquittal?
And even if the jurors can get past their fear of sparking another riot, they must also deal with their earlier opinions on the case, based in part on the infamous videotape of the beating, as well as on the testimony and outcome of the first trial. And defense attorneys question whether black jurors can ever be impartial in this case.
I think that African-American prospective jurors will be honest, and I think, and in that honesty will be that they can't be fair in this particular case.
I think it's a phony argument. I could make the counter-argument maybe that you can't find an impartial white.
In South Central, where the worst rioting took place, there are mixed opinions on whether black jurors will be biased against the officers.
That's an unfair statement right there, so you can't say that. You can't categorize every black person as the same. That's not true.
There won't be no fair trial because from what we've seen on TV and the tapes we've seen, we already got it in our mind that they're guilty.
So they're going to stick a whole gang of white people up there. And that wouldn't be fair either.
But defendant Stacey Kuhn questions such definitions of fair.
They want justice to be served, is the term that's often used. And justice, when these individuals use this term, means a guilty verdict.
Community leaders worry about the impact if another trial involves a jury with no blacks on it.
And I think since the trial is being held in Los Angeles, it would seem to me that there's no real excuse, legitimate excuse now for not having a jury that will be representative of the city and really hopefully have people who can relate to some of the frustrations and pain that the Rodney Kings of this world have to deal with on a daily basis in South Central Los Angeles.
I think if there's an overweight jury, there's going to be concern that the Constitution has been violated. The Supreme Court has said that the exclusion on the basis of race by the prosecutor or the defense counsel violates the Constitution. And I think if the defense attorneys are going to strike all blacks from the jury, they're going to have to be able to articulate reasons for those strikes apart from race.
Whatever the final racial makeup of the jury, there is concern about the safety of the jurors once the trial ends. The judge today took the unusual step of refusing to release to the press the written questionnaires filled out by potential jurors. Their names will never be known, their pictures will never be seen on television, and they will be sequestered throughout the trial. A number of news organizations had fought to get access to those questionnaires.
This is a critical criminal prosecution in this town. Everyone knows what happened the last time. It is extremely important that not only do the defendants and the prosecution get a right to a fair trial, but that the public has a perception that everything has been done in a fair and open manner. The appearance of fairness cannot be fostered if matters as critical as jury selection gets done in secret.
There is a concern for the safety and security of the jurors and their privacy. The jurors in the last case were abused after the case, and we don't want that to happen.
With all the pressures that are bearing down on this jury selection process, not everyone is optimistic that a panel of impartial jurors can ever be found.
Well, I don't believe there's any moral human being that could possibly vote in this case without realizing that there may be an impact on the city of Los Angeles. And I think that any moral person would hesitate to vote not guilty because of the fact that a riot may occur. So I think this may be the case where we cannot get a fair trial.
I think there's enormous psychological pressure to convict in a case like this. The last acquittal led to riots, and certainly there's at least a subconscious fear that another acquittal could lead to another set of riots. And yet the hope has to be that with the instructions from the judge and the reminders from the defense counsel, the jurors will decide solely based on the evidence presented in the court.
Well, here we go again. You know, what did we learn from last year? It's the truth. It's the one, my truth to come out again, and just have to tell it to hopefully a fair jury.
Howell's hopes for a fair jury are shared by a city nervously waiting for the next shoe to drop. The problem, of course, is how one defines fair. This is Judy Muller for Nightline in Los Angeles.
When we come back, we'll be joined by a man who himself was at the center of controversy in the Rodney King case, former police chief Daryl Gates, and by the congresswoman who gave a national voice to the anger felt by her constituents in South Central L.A., Maxine Waters.
This is ABC News Nightline.
Here's the community update for the Rhine-Eifel area for Wednesday, February 3rd from AFN Kaiserslautern. Join Bitburg Outdoor Rec for a Volksmarch Saturday. Explore around Bernkastel on the Moselle River. Bitburg Outdoor Rec takes sign-ups now. Improve your speaking skills with the Eiffel Toastmasters. They gather at the Spangdahlem Community Activities Center Ballroom tomorrow night at 6. Take care of your printing needs at Sembach's MWR Print Shop. Layout, laser printing, and duplication services await you. Check out Baumholder's Family Activity Center. Their open house is Saturday from 11 till 5. Saturday is the day for Colorama Bowling in Vogelway. Sign up at 6:30, bowl at 7 p.m. Choose from hundreds of book titles at Vogelway's Library Quarterly Book Sale. It starts Monday. That's your community update for the Rhine-Eifel area. For the best in news and information, tune to AM 1107 or FM 100.2. I'm Army Sergeant Lisa Neidinger.
Travel. It can be fun, exciting, and educational. It can also be tiring, confusing, and a little scary. If you go through an airport that has a lot of military traffic, chances are it has a USO airport lounge. If you need a phone, a place to change diapers, or a place to kill some time, visit your USO airport lounge in 35 airports around the world, including this one at Frankfurt International Airport in Germany.
May I help you?
High school graduates. The U.S. Army can offer you up to $25,200 for college, excellent benefits, and many other opportunities. For more information, call German Civilian 06221-183-188. Your 7th Medical Command hospital or clinic has the booklet Pediatric Guide for Parents, which has tips about babies and older children. To get your free copy, visit your 7th Medcom hospital or clinic.
Woman Maxine Waters represents the district that includes South Central, the area of Los Angeles that was at the center of the violence last spring. Representative Waters joins us from our Washington studios. Darrell Gates spent 43 years on the L.A. police force, the last 14 as chief of police. He retired last year following months of criticism over the Rodney King incident. He is now the host of a radio talk show in Los Angeles. He joins us from our Los Angeles bureau. It may surprise you, Chief Gates, to know that I think this time you have the easier argument to make. What is fair in this case?
Well, first of all, it's unfair to retry the officers. The officers were tried in state court. The prosecution did their very, very best to find them guilty. They did not. 12 jurors, nothing to indicate that there was anything wrong with those jurors, found them not guilty. I just think the officer being put through a trial that is totally unnecessary. I think we're using now a system of justice to find a politically correct answer to all of this.
So your argument would be that there is nothing fair that can happen because the trial in and of itself is unfair?
Absolutely not, and we're putting the whole justice system on trial. You've got a segment of society who does not believe that the system of justice is fair, and they've said over and over again that if these officers are found not guilty, that it's proof that the system is unfair. So there's a no-win situation here, and the pressures on that jury are incredible, absolutely incredible.
Let me stop on that point for a moment and turn to Congresswoman Waters. I think even you would have to agree that the pressure on the jury is going to be very tough, no matter who makes up that jury, black, white, however it is, ethnically or racially mixed. These people are going to have a tremendously hard time blocking out the politics of what is going to be happening in the city of Los Angeles during and after the trial.
This is not easy for anybody. It is particularly difficult for the millions of Americans who watch that tape, the beating of Rodney King. They do not understand how they could have seen such brutalizing by the Los Angeles police officers and have them get off scot-free. So there's a lot of pressure on a lot of people. The community itself is under a lot of pressure, and I sympathize certainly with the jurors, but there must be a representative jury. There cannot be an all-white jury, and we don't want to see any tricks. In this case, the change of venue, the non-representative jury in the last case, we can't have any more of that. We've all got to work very hard at ensuring that people can have faith in a fair system.
Let me ask you something. When you said a moment ago, anyone who saw that tape, there was at least the implication that those guys were guilty. We all know they were guilty. We saw the tape, and nothing else makes any difference. In which case, why bother having another trial? I mean, do you have any faith in the ability of this trial? Let us say, for the sake of argument, that the jury found them not guilty a second time. Not because of what they saw on the tape, but because of the judge's instructions, because of what came out in examination and cross-examination. How many trials do there have to be before you're prepared to say justice was served?
Let's talk about the fact that the federal Justice Department is now involved. It's like a safety valve. When you have states or municipalities that do not appear to be able to render justice, where it appears that the civil rights of an individual have been violated, that's when the federal government steps in. And this is a kind of safety valve. We do have an opportunity to go through this again and to try and get a fair trial, one where the jury is more representative, one where you don't have a change of venue, where in a community where many officers live and work and have the support of that community. So we have a chance to do it right and to present all of the evidence this time and see if we can't get a fair trial.
I understand what you're saying when you say we have a chance to do it right, but what if, having done it right, the men are still found not guilty? Will the community be satisfied?
It all depends on what happens between now and the rendering of a verdict. Many of us would like to be able to look the community in the eye and say it was a fair trial. Everything possible was done. But I'm concerned one of the defense attorneys already has indicated, according to the Los Angeles Times, that he's going to target potential jurors in this case, African-American potential jurors in this case. He does not believe that there can be fair verdicts rendered by African-Americans in this case. So I think that if we can follow this case and say we think that it's fair because the jury is representative, we don't think that there have been any tricks pulled, we think that the judge has made good rulings and defend it, then we can stand up and say to people, we think you should accept whatever this verdict is.
Chief
But
Gates,
if we can't do that, then we can't defend the system.
As we look back on last year's trial, do you think the change of venue was a smart idea, putting it in Simi Valley, which after all has a lot of policemen in its community, a lot of ex-policemen in the community, is essentially a white community? If you were in charge and had to do it all over again and could affect where the trial was held, would you put it in a different place?
Well, I think that Congresswoman Waters talks about as tricks is our system. There were no tricks there. The officers had a right to ask for a change of venue. There's never been a case like this in the history that I can remember where there's been this kind of attention paid to it by the media. They believed they had a right to a change in venue. It was taken to the appellate court. The appellate court agreed. That, again, is our system of justice. That's hardly a trick. Then the judge moved it to that particular court because that was the system. And again, I don't know how you can say that the 12 jurors who sat there listened to that evidence, listened to the defense, listened to the legal instruction. I don't know how you can say that they didn't do the job that they were entrusted to do.
I don't think that's the question. The question is whether the defendants in this case had a jury. They certainly had a jury of their peers, but was Rodney King fairly represented on that jury in any way? Was there any way that an all-white jury in Simi Valley was going to do anything but find those men not guilty?
Well, I have more faith in people, apparently, than others do. I think, yes, they would have. There was a hung jury on Officer Powell. They did not find them all. They did not acquit them all. There was a hung jury on him. He would have been retried again. So I think they really did their very best to make a fair judgment in this case.
Well, it's strange that you can accept that that is our system and there were no tricks and the change of venue was okay and the jury was okay, and you can't accept that we have a system that also includes this safety valve where the federal courts can step in and say that we're going to try because there's a question of whether or not this man's civil rights was involved.
Let me interrupt for just one moment because we have to take a break, and let's pick up on that point when we return. We'll continue our discussion in a moment.
You know, when it comes to art, most people just never think of billboards. They say it all began with P.T. Barnum advertising his circus around the turn of the century. Now a lot has changed in the billboard business over the years, but one thing's remained the same. Someone still has to paint the picture.
Sometimes when people get their PCS orders, things seem to get out of hand. Sure, there's a lot to do, but a PCS doesn't have to be a big headache. If you're well prepared for your move, the first step is to call your transportation office as soon as your orders arrive. You'll learn all the right moves for making your next PCS your most successful.
Thanks for the guided tour.
Sure. I got one when I was first assigned here, just passing on the favor.
Oh, here. Let me get the cab fare.
You got dinner.
At least let me get the tip.
No tip.
Oh, why?
It's not the custom here.
Maybe I ought to give this to you.
For what?
As a tip. For the tip. About tipping.
Make a good impression. Learn and respect local customs.
And we are back with former Los Angeles Police Chief Daryl Gates and Congresswoman Maxine Waters. Congresswoman Waters, you were just making the point that this, too, is part of the system, the safety valve.
That's right. I was listening very carefully to Daryl Gates, who talked about the change of venue and the jury selection process was okay in the Los Angeles case when it was in Simi Valley. But he does not believe that these officers should be tried. He thinks that this business of them having to be in the federal courts is unnecessary. And so it seems to me as if he has a double standard here.
No,
if he accepts that that is our system, then he'll accept, too, that we have this particular part of the system that allows for the federal government to step in when they believe there has been a violation of civil rights.
Congresswoman, I have no choice in that, but that is not the purpose of the civil rights law. As you know, it was enacted at a time when local and state government would not do the job. And the federal government had to step in, enacted the civil rights law, and used that whenever the states and the local government did not do their job. This is a case that had more preparation, more vigor, more zeal put into it than I've seen in serial murder cases. The district attorney did everything in his power to convict these officers. So it is not a case where the state did not perform its job. And
I think you missed the point here, Daryl Gates. First of all, we have a municipality that you presided over for a long time where we had $45 million in suits and settlements because of the brutality.
Let's not get off the subject.
Because of brutality
We're talking about
of the Los Angeles Police Department. In, I guess, 1992 alone, there was $11 million.
I'll tell you what, in this instance, Congresswoman, I'm afraid I have to agree with Mr. Gates. What we're trying to get to here is whether it is possible for there to be a fair trial this time around. And I'd like to come back at you one more time with a question that I've posed to you a couple of times now, and you've sort of evaded it just a little bit. I'm trying to say to you whether you think, and you know your own community of South Central Los Angeles in particular very well, if these four men, having had this second trial, are once again found not guilty, and if, let us say for the sake of argument, that there is an appropriate jury, from your point of view, will those people then be able to say in South Central Los Angeles, okay, fair trial, we can live with it?
That is a possibility if, in fact, we're able to defend the system and represent to everyone that the jury was fairly selected, that there were no tricks in the case, that the judge made fair rulings, then I think we have a chance. But if, in fact, we end up with an all-white jury, if, in fact, we end up with motions being made by the prosecutors that appear to be ignored or undermined by the judge, no, we don't have a chance. We will not be able to defend or respect a system that does not appear to be fair at every step of the way. If it is an absolute fair trial that leadership can defend, then we have a chance, Ted.
Is it going to be possible for any African-American resident of the area who is in that pool to go on that jury and to vote for acquittal without coming back and being regarded as a traitor by his neighborhood?
Perhaps not. But I can ask the same question about whites on the jury. Daryl Gates believes that whites, if it's an all-white jury, that they can make a fair decision, and I do believe that blacks are capable of making a fair decision, even if they get ridiculed in the case of no convictions. Yes, I think it is possible.
And Congresswoman, I believe that blacks can go in and make a fair decision. I believe that Clearly, I believe that. But what bothers me most is the statement you made right at the outset, that anyone who saw that videotape should find the officers guilty.
No,
that's exactly what you said.
No,
that's
I
what
did
I've
not
heard you
say
say
that.
publicly over
I
and
did
over
not
again.
say that, Darrell Gates. What I said is that the majority of Americans, as was shown in polls, that saw that tape believe the officers were guilty. That's what I said.
That's my point. What you have failed to recognize is that the officers go in innocent until proven guilty.
Oh, we all recognize that is the system.
They go in innocent. You've proved them guilty before they go in. You've already said that. No, you've already said that. They are innocent, and they have a right to be heard.
That's
they have
right.
a right to present evidence. If they did that, and you still believe they are guilty.
What I believe is...
You've got 15 seconds to finish off.
What I believe is there's going to be new evidence that was not presented in the previous trial, that we've got some tough prosecutors who know their business. We've got Rodney King in better shape because he's healed from that brutal beating that he received at the hands of LAPD, all prepared to do a better job of presenting the case.
And if you've got all of that, Congressman, then I hope you get on the pulpit and you say to your community that you ought not to riot, that this was a fair trial. You've already said that you have new prosecutors. You've said all of these kinds of things. So you better get up to say, hey, that was a fair trial.
Well, I'm glad that you're not there, Darrell Gates, because they won't have to worry about what you might say in this case.
We'll put you on by phone with one another, but we're fresh out of time. Thanks very much, Ms. Waters, Mr. Gates.
You're welcome.
I'll be back in a moment.
Hey, Jensen, you buying tonight? After putting up with you at work all day? No way. How about you, Taylor? You always seem to have money. Well, I happen to be very smart in the area of personal finance. Take entertainment. When you're the designated driver, the club gives you free soft drinks and food discounts, too.
I get it. That's why you volunteer to be the designated driver when we're at the club. Very smart, Taylor.
I was the designated driver when we went downtown, and I didn't get anything free. Sweetie, some of us have it, and some of us don't.
Get home safely with a designated driver and ask about the designated driver program at your club. Some clubs offer free soft drinks and food coupons.
Hey, designated driver, you're getting your sodas free. You buy. Okay, but next time we split the total 3 ways. You should be an accountant, Taylor. Taylor here's buying. What's your most expensive drink?
People call us the Green Berets, but that's our headgear, not our name. Everybody has heard of us, but hardly anyone really knows what we do or who we are. The enemy never knows when we'll drop in or where we'll pop up. We put things together, and we take things apart. We are masters of all manner of weapons, but we are also experts in the battle of wits and the war of ideas. Our missions are unconventional warfare and foreign internal defense, direct action, and special recon. Real missions in the real world, in war or peace. Special men with special missions and special skills. That's why they call us Special Forces.
That's our report for tonight. I'm Ted Koppel in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
This has been Nightline.
Nightline is a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
This is your community update for Bavaria for Wednesday, February 3rd from AFN Nuremberg. Experience a taste of culture of an art show, the 19th and 21st at Baumberg Senior Leaders and Civilians Club. Everyone's welcome to come browse through the artwork. Philsick's Recreation Center can help you to say Happy Valentine's Day with balloon bouquets delivered to your beloved. They deliver up to 30 kilometers from Philsick. Place your order by the 13th. And Baumberg's ACS just may hold the key to your successful transition.
Each Wednesday in February, they hold a Doors resume class at 10 a.m. Contact the ACS to find out more. And you can meet friends and dance it up each Friday night at Cotterbox EM Club. The Friday Night Disco features many types of popular music and loads of entertainment. Catch it all at the Cade Club. I'm Specialist Brett Billings, and that's your community update for today. When you're in Bavaria, lock in to AFN Nuremberg.
The future is as bright as the promises of God.
If they don't start growing hair within a week, I'm buying them both matching baby toothpaste.
Catch Full House Wednesdays on AFN. It's hard to tell the kids from the grown-ups in this wacky house filled with friends and family. Full House brings the laughter home every Wednesday.
I think it's got to make it to the U.S. You trust me?
Team MacGyver, Thursdays on AFN.
Serving the United States European Command, this is AFN.